There's a certain charm attached to vintage items and antiques. Some buy it for the love of art, some collect it as a hobby. For some, it's a status symbol, but for many, it's a way of doing business. A business that makes artists, collectors, and investors billions of dollars. The value of vintage car market itself was $24.5 billion in 2019 and is predicted to grow to $35.5 billion in 2023. That totally explains why Osho was obsessed with Rolls-Royce and had 93 of them. Welcome to the most precious episode of On the Money, where we break down the art of investing in vintage and antiques and how you can make profit from them. Vintage as a term is often confused with antique, but there's a difference. When something is called antique, it usually means that it's a relic or an object of ancient times. Say, for example, a work of art, furniture, or decorative objects made at least 100 years ago. The definition of vintage is, however, a little trickier. A vintage object should reflect the era in which it was produced or exhibit the best quality of that era. For example, a 1960s Mercedes or an action figure from the 90s, they can be called vintage. Vintage items are at least 20 years old, but for an object to be antique, it has to go back at least 100 years. People invest in vintage objects and antiques because they are rare. While vintage wine and cars and antique furniture are the most common, a lot of people also invest in vintage fashion, oil paintings, jewelry, comics, and even coins. Most of the vintage items and antiques are sold at auctions, where collectors compete with each other for the finest work coming to market. It might not surprise you that the first recorded auction-esque activity was in 500 BC in Greece, where women were auctioned off by their families as brides. The Romans too regularly auctioned off spoils of wars and slaves. In fact, in 193 AD, the Praetorian Guard, who served as a secret police to the Roman Empire, put the whole Roman throne up for sale. They did this by killing the Roman Emperor Pertinax and then offering the throne to the highest bidder. I mean, that's more dramatic than Jaime Lannister killing the Mad King. At least he did it to save the people. After the fall of the Roman Empire, auctions took a dip until the 17th century with the rise of the candle auctions. A candle was lit at the start of these auctions and the bids lasted till the candle had burnt out. By doing so, no one would exactly know when the last bid could be placed, adding a sense of anticipation to the auction. And since then, auction houses began to multiply. The first one appeared in 1674, the Stockholm Auction House in Sweden, followed by Sotheby's in 1744, which is now the second largest auction house in the whole world. The biggest auction house, Christie's, opened its doors in 1766. Auctions function in a way which is more or less similar to what we see in movies. But before an auction begins, buyers are given some time to examine the items on sale. Post that, they register with the auctioneer by providing details like phone number, address, and ID proof. Each bidder is given a card with a number that is used to identify them. The auctions begin with the sound of a bell, after which the auctioneer describes the item on sale. He or she then starts the bidding with a reasonable opening price, or the seller could just set a minimum price, and then the bidding starts from there. People have sold the strangest things at auctions and made money from it. A lock of John Lennon's hair was sold for $35,000 by a German hairdresser in 1966. In recent years, online auctions have begun to boom. Auctioneers can connect buyers with sellers from anywhere in the world. They're conducted on sites like eBay, Auction.com, and Copart. Such auctions seem to be a win-win for everyone involved because of the absence of geographic boundaries. They provide the seller a chance to reach millions of people from the comfort of their home. They also eliminate the limitation of traditional actions where a person had to attend the actual bidding even if they weren't even sure of buying the product in the first place. Online auctions are also time-friendly as they take place throughout the day and even at night. This basically means that while the seller is probably asleep somewhere in the UK, you are happily bidding deep in India. Log in at night and hunt for the best deals or list your commodity, and within no time, your bid starts streaming. According to the European Fine Art Foundation, the online art auction industry accounted for £2.8 billion of sales in 2014. That's like 6% of the total worldwide art sales. For online auctions, you have to register on websites like eBay to enter an auction, post which you will be able to see category-wise products. On most websites, there's an image and description of the product, minimum bid price, and the end date, which basically indicates the time till which the auction is open. You can enter your bid price and submit it. In case your bid wins, you get an email from the site stating the exact same. Some auctions are live streamed as well, where people place their bids from their respective houses. These more or less follow the same format as a regular auction. Now, If you're a beginner, the question is that how do you even decide what to buy and what to invest your money in? The valuation involves doing on-ground as well as online research. Visit stores and flea markets to understand the generic price of various rare items. Also talk to various collectors, curators, art dealers and gallerists and then compare data from all these resources. You should also do your own research by reading up online on what items are expected to trend in the coming years. Take the Mona Lisa painting for example. Although as per the French heritage law, the original painting cannot be bought or sold, its current worth in 2021 is believed to be more than $867 million. I mean, with that much amount of money, Virgin Galactic can send you to the edge of space not once, but 3,468 times. The value of the painting is high not just because of the artistic wonders, but also because of the stories attached to it. The painting was considered to be a masterpiece right from the start. But it was when it got stolen in 1911 that it caught public's attention. The whole world suddenly stopped and wanted it to be found and preserved. And so, its worth automatically increased. Till date, Mona Lisa receives fan mail from all over the world and even has her own mailbox. So the point is that you don't just need to have an eye for the good stuff, but you also need to thoroughly research the sentiment attached to that object. A lot of people assume that they need to be really rich to be able to invest in vintage items and antiques. But that's not entirely true. There is a lot of stuff that you can buy without breaking your bank. Take vintage action figures for example. They're not too expensive if you buy them at the right time and can give you great profits. Bruce Pascal, a toy cars enthusiast, has the world's most valuable Hot Wheels collection worth over $1 million. His smartest collection so far has been the world's rarest Hot Wheels, a bright pink Volkswagen Beach Bomb rear loader worth $150,000. This car is unique because it was the first attempt at Mattel to make a Volkswagen bus. Some Indian stores are doing great business selling artifacts, sculptures, decor items and furniture, like Danny Mehra's Carpets in Bangalore, which sells 19th and 20th century carpets from countries like Iran, Anatolia, Caucasus and Central Asia. Dewan Brothers stores in Dehradun has been dealing in antiques since 1929 and sells Japanese Satsuma earthenware pieces. A lot of this stuff is sold online too. Apart from Amazon, eBay and Etsy, websites like Ruby Lane, Webstore, Artfire and Craigslist also sell vintage and antique items. Indian online stores like Antique Cart, Collector Bazaar and Antique Story are also gaining traction in this regard. COVID-19 has created an emerging need for homes to be serene and relaxing. Just like the fashion industry has moved back to 70s and 80s, the vintage trend has made a huge comeback when it comes to interiors. Now you also have to remember that a lot of these vintage buys are made on the basis of the status value attached to them. People don't just want to live rich, they want to feel rich. And owning something rare and unique gives people a sense of individuality and makes them stand out of the crowd. It's like a treasure hunt, like whoever gets the item first becomes a star. This is exactly why celebrities invest so much in vintage items. Fashion vintage has become a celebrity must-have over the years because it is a direct symbol of a celebrity's taste in art. Zendaya, the ultimate Gen Z muse, picked the 2020 Visionary Awards in a vintage Versace dress from 1996 as a nod to the year she was born. Although vintage and antique buying is an emotional market, it's also a huge money-making business. We have seen a refreshing shift in purchases done with the sole purpose of making money instead of it just being a status symbol. But just like real estate, vintage items and antiques have a fluctuating market. So before you make a purchase, you need to first identify that what's hot. You should always collect items with high demand and low availability. One way to access this is to go to the auction website and look for the heading Sold Listings. Clicking on this will show you the items on the website that have been recently sold the most, which means that these are the items that are currently in high demand. You should also research the pricing of the object that you're planning to purchase. For a true comparison, check out Art Indices because they track the prices of work sold at auctions more than once. If you keep these things in mind, you'll hopefully gain good financial returns. Investing in antique and vintage items is a great way of diversifying your investment portfolio out of stocks, bonds, or real estate. So keep an eye out for good stuff and invest when you think is the right time. If you enjoyed this episode, please do make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to Cred's YouTube channel for more money-related stuff. Thank you for watching.